Morning, everybody. How you doing?
Morning.
Name's John Miller from Appleton, Wisconsin. Been with Pierce a little over 20 years. Started as an electrician, wiring up the ladders. Then I got a job working outside, testing, fixing, setting the ladders up. In 2005, I got a job training. So about half the year to 3/4 of the year, I'm out training. The other half of the year, I'm back in Appleton working on the ladder truck. So actually, now I'm on we can't fly anymore. So I'm on a 3-week driver. I left Green Bay last week and drove north of Pennsylvania. And I drove to Madison County here, then I go to South Carolina, then I go to Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and then back home. So, and they wanted me to do Duluth, Minnesota in there also. I said, I need a week at home and then I'll do Duluth. So, getting a lot of drive time. As far as the class, we got about an hour in the classroom, go to the truck. We'll start with the cab lift, that side of the pump, work our way around, go inside of the cab. Go to the pump, go to the backups, the overrides. Everybody's open that compartment where you see the green and blue handles. All right, the gray handles, that's your aerial and stabilizer manual control valve. Go to the back of the truck. Okay, show you the EPU, show you how to run that, emergency power unit. Then I'll do a setup, let everybody who wants to do a setup. Short jacket, go up top, show you how far you can rotate with a short jack, bring the ladder off to the side, go through the basket controls. The 3-to-1 bracket. The 3-to-1 bracket's an aluminum bracket where you can have your rappelling Stokes basket, your ladder for your parapet roof. Then give everybody a chance to operate until you're comfortable. How long is it going to take? Every day is different. I've done these trainings 3 to 4 hours all the way out to 8 to 10. I don't figure on the longer. So, all right, we'll just get started here. At the start, a lot of safety. And first few slides here talk about basically make sure you're properly trained before you operate the ladder. Read your manual. Everybody know how to find your manual. I believe it either comes on a flash drive now, or you can go to piercemfg.com, log in as guest. You'll find manuals. Okay, and a gray box will come up and it'll ask you to log in. Bottom left it says log in as guest. All you got to do is press on that. And then go to publications, scroll down, and it'll say operators manuals and aerial, chassis, pump, whatever manual you want. You can make a copy of it from in there. Okay, danger warning, caution tags everywhere. Biggest thing with a ladder truck is power lines. Everybody know how bad it is to hit a power line. Anybody seen a truck hit a power line before? About a year and a half ago, it was a brand new truck. It was in service 3 days. I believe it was Portland, Maine. It was a 107 rear mount. Those ladders are fast. So set it up in front of the station, raise it up, rotate it right into the power line. Power line's been there forever. It's a big power line. They couldn't move it. Said it looked like a giant welder. Truck started on fire, total loss. So as far as you can, stay away from power lines. Big, little, as far as you can. And again, they recommend 50 for the big ones, 20 for the little ones. As far as you can, stay away from them. I don't know how far it can arc, how big the line is. Operator instructions. All right, set the truck up properly. You got levels on the back of your truck, green, yellow, and red. Try to get it in the green. Stay within your load chart. All right, an operator must be stationed at turntable controls at all times. They're saying when somebody's in the basket or on the ladder, they want somebody at turntable to oversee operations. During operations, continually monitor your load chart. Always stay within your load chart. Now, we test all the trucks at 1.5 times capacity plus tools. So this ladder has a 1,000-pound tip load. So we'll pull the truck up, okay, and the truck is empty. There's no water in the tank, no equipment on the truck, no ladders, no ladder racks. Truck's empty. And we do a soft set. So you're on a flat, so to do a soft set, you run them out and touch them, hit auto level, and hold it till it's done, okay? So if you do a soft set, the bulge is still in the tire. Raise the ladder up. We got a stack of weights, okay? Stack of weights, there's 2 eyelets underneath the basket. We'll hook up straps to those eyelets, pick the weights up, fully extend it, rotate it 360, the truck has a stand. So basically, you set it up properly, stay within your load chart, stay within your levels, you'll be fine. And I'll explain a hard set. Hard set would be you run them out, bring them down until they stop. Everybody's operated it before. Bring them down, when they touch, they stop. Take your fingers off the switches, go back into it for about a second, It'll pick that truck up a little bit and then hit auto level. That'll be enough if you're on a flat to get enough weight off of that suspension and get it on the stabilizers. So the more weight you have hanging, the more stable you're going to be. You can operate it, soft set, bring the ladder out of the cradle, but you're going to get more non-working side lift. So the more weight you have hanging, the less of that you're going to get. If you're on any kind of hill, incline, slope, it'll take care of that for you. Just if you're on a flat, you may have to get a bump, get it up a little bit. Do not extend or retract the ladder sections with personnel standing on the ladder sections. Legs and feet may be jammed between the rungs. 3,000 PSI. I won't even slow down if you got something in there. The aerial is designed for a positive load. Do not set the aerial on a ground roof, etc. This would be a positive load on your ladder. This is a negative load. Ladder is not built to handle a negative load. Little pads underneath the basket are meant for accidental contact only. It's not meant to rest on anything. Self-supporting. Big thing, don't bend it backwards. Just about 2 months ago, somebody came up to do their final in Appleton, and they turned around and they are driving it into the ground, and they had to get the fly section replaced. They folded it up. So don't drive the basket into the ground. The operator is responsible for knowing the condition of his aerial device before operating. This includes a quick scan of pins, cables, loose equipment, etc. During aerial operation, safety chains must be in place. You got the man-saver bar at the turntable. If the aerial contacts a high voltage line, do not touch truck and the ground at the same time, depending on the situation. All right, there's a step underneath the pump panel. That's what that step is there for. Pump panel operators stand on that step with the ladder out of the cradle. Power lines in the area. Personal ladder in the basket. Wear a safety belt. When fighting a fire, never work directly over a roof in case of venting. When using an aerial rescue operation, try to approach from above. If you come from down below, people jump into the basket and putting in overload. When making a rescue, always position the tip for easy access. And when using an aerial in extreme cold conditions, be aware of possible ice buildup, overload, and damage to your aerial. Now, the thing with the buildup of ice is a 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch or less, okay, you could still extend or retract, but you get greater than a 1/4 inch, you don't want to extend or retract it. The section's right on pads, you could damage those. And they're called E-tracks. They carry the cabling from the turntable to the fly. Okay, I've seen those where they had about a 1/2 inch of ice, and that thing's gonna extend or retract, they don't care, and it shredded those E-tracks, pull them apart. So if you get a 1/4 inch or greater buildup of ice, bring the ladder off to the side, don't extend or retract it, get done with what you're doing. And I've seen departments lay tarps over the ladder, pull a truck up on each side of it, and use the heat from the exhaust to melt the ladder off. That's more Wisconsin probably than, but you do get ice once in a while. Yeah. I see Chicago's getting a snowstorm today, or north of us, huh? So, kind of nice here. All right, everybody good? I don't know why this slide is in here, but somebody's done it. Don't drill holes in the ladder to mount anything, right? Moving the aerial with people on it. Depends on the department SOP. Again, don't want to extend or retract. Now your primary inspection will be a 10-hour inspection. So your majority of your ladder maintenance is a 10-hour maintenance. Okay, the ladder sliding surfaces, your sheaves, your waterway, all that's 10-hour. Now with this, I would recommend, depending on you, say once a month, set it out up front, extend it out and walk it and check it if it's dry or dirty. I'm not saying grease it once a month, just walk it and check it. And if you get a fire and everything's blowing back, getting stuck in the grease, you're gonna have to do it, you know, the following day or a little sooner than your 10-hour. Now you guys are gonna do the maintenance, everywhere is different. Some places do it all, some places don't do any. You guys will do it, okay. Also in the back of your manual, in maintenance, you'll see, show a picture of the truck, probably show 15 different grease points on the page before. It'll say grease point number 1, what it is, and all the recommended lubricants are on that page with part numbers. Okay. Cab control, starting the truck. Okay, truck's multiplex, so when you start it, battery, ignition, all your lights come on the dash, all your needles go over. It's called a prove out, so battery, ignition, prove out, and then start. Okay, if you go battery ignition start without letting it go through that prove out, won't do it every time, but on the command zone, computer screen, you may get a tranny comm loss, engine comm loss. Okay, if that ever happens, you can drive with that on, but to get rid of it, basically you got to reboot the truck. Ignition, let the engine wind down, then battery. Don't shut it off with the battery. People do that. And if you're in this habit, you want to get out of it, is people will shut the truck down properly, but then they'll go back and hit the ignition switch. So, hey, if we get a call, all I got to do is hit the battery. I save a step. I don't have to take all that effort to press that ignition switch on. So battery ignition, start. Also let that turbo cool down when you get back from a call. Okay, let it sit out in the apron for about 3 minutes before you shut it off. And is everybody familiar with the O10 emissions? We've been around enough trucks that have it. You've got your DEF tank, 4.5 gallon tank. One 4.5 gallon tank of DEF will last 3 to 5 full tanks of diesel. Okay, you're not going to burn through it in a day. Just keep some in it. And if you use a 2.5 gallon containers to fill it, I don't know if you use that or not, or you got a big drum. But if you let that tank get down to 3/8, you can take that whole container and dump it in there. Okay, it's empty. You don't spill it all down the side. Throw the box away. You don't have a half gallon sitting around. So about 3/8, you can dump the whole box in there. And with that, some nightmare stories around the country that I've heard that you don't want to contaminate that DEF tank. Somehow people have put windshield washer fluid in it. I guess it's blue. This must be that new stuff. We put that blue cap thing. So no windshield washer fluid. And also even worse, they put the DEF in a diesel tank. If that ever happens, don't even start it up. You suck that into your engine, you're going to have a lot of problems. So no DEF in a diesel tank. Anybody done that yet? Knock on wood. Yeah. They had a group where there's a gauge on the dash for your DEF tank, right? So one guy was sitting in the cab, the other person was in back filling it with the boxes. Put one box in, needle didn't move. So they went to get another box. About halfway through the second box, they realized they're putting it in a diesel tank. So everybody's got that one. Okay, I can't remember if you do have a stabilizer camera inside of the cab. Okay, so you hit that stabilizer camera and it'll show where your stabilizers are going to end up at fully extended. It shows two little red stabilizers. Okay, so you can have that on as you're pulling up. All right, we need to pull ahead another couple feet to get past that car so we can get that outrigger all the way out. All right, so you got your stabilizer camera, and also if you got cameras on your blinkers and you have that stabilizer camera on, the stabilizer camera takes over. So if you're trying to drive and you hit your blinker and that doesn't come on, that's why. You got to shut that stabilizer camera off, and then your cameras for your blinkers will come on. Right, you got an aerial master. Now, if you're sitting in the driver's seat, aerial master, aerial PTO are down to your left. So aerial master is your electric for your stabilizers and your aerial. So remember, aerial master, electric. Interlock, parking brake, and transmission. So if you forgot to shut it off, you release either one of those, it'll kick it off. And you also have a aerial PTO. Aerial PTO is your hydraulics. And you have a front wheel lock. Now your front wheel lock is up and to the right. And with your front wheel lock, what that does, you want to set this when you operate your aerial, it locks the brakes on the front axle. In this truck, normally you want to try to set uphill, bring the back of your truck up to get into your levels, and you put your wheel chocks on the front axle. With that front wheel lock, that's a good anchor point for the truck. And when you put your wheel chocks on, you put low side tight, high side an inch or two away. Low side would be if I release the parking brake, which way is the truck going to roll, that's your low side. Do you have a set on each side or just one side? One set. All right, you take the high side that's not doing anything if you're on a decent hill, put it around on the other side on the low side. So you got two chocks on the low side. And your front wheel lock, that will shut off with your parking brake and ignition. A lot of people just leave it in the on position, the up position. It'll shut off automatically. It doesn't hurt anything if you leave it on. It's up to you if you want to leave it on or not, or get in the habit of shutting it off every time. It's not interlocked. So you can operate the aerial without having that on. Any questions here?
You say it is or is not interlocked?
Is not. So you can run it without it on. Okay, at the back of your truck for your stabilizer controls. Okay, you got an E-stop. You've got 3 E-stops. One has stabilizer controls, turntable, and basket. It's a big closed loop, so if one of them gets hit, it shuts your power off. Doesn't shut the engine off, right? It just shuts off your controllers. PTO is still spinning, but you can't build up any pressure with that E-stop set. All you have to do to set it, push it in, set it, quarter turn it right to release it, it'll pop out, right? When it's set, that red light will be on. Now you can, a couple of reasons to use it. Somebody's up top, they're about to hit something. You can go ahead and hit that, and it'll stop it right now. It won't give you a nice cushiony slowdown. And also you can use it as a safety. So if somebody's climbing a ladder or you're doing a rescue, person at the turntable, hit that emergency stop, keep somebody from screwing up with people on the ladder. And I shouldn't have to say this, but even after I tell this story, somebody will do it. They'll see that, especially at the turntable, they'll see the arrows on that knob and they'll just start twisting on it. And then they loosen the whole nut on the bottom of the panel, so the whole thing's loose. Everybody good at emergency stop? All right, your override, why would I use this override? This override is there because something electrically has failed. So this truck has collision avoidance on it. So bring the ladder out of the cradle, you come down, it'll stop you from hitting your own truck, right? So that computer on the ladder has to know what angle the ladder's at, right? What rotation you're at. So let's say you're out in the middle of nowhere, not saying it's gonna happen, but it could, the elevation sensor went bad. So it thinks you're in collision avoidance and you're nowhere near collision avoidance. By holding that switch up, somebody would have to be in back, holding that switch up would let you move the ladder. But when you are holding that switch, it takes away your safety, so your collision avoidance is gone now. Your bedding is gone. So if you're holding that override, you want to have eyes everywhere. If you're trying to put the ladder away in the cradle, you want to have eyes out there. You want to have eyes at the back of the ladder where that lower midsection comes in towards the cab, right? Because if you're up like this and you fully retract it, you're going to smash that cross lay over the cab. So you got to watch what's going on. Another reason to use it, I'll come back to that screen in a second though. You've got a fully extended, firm on ground. So fully extended equals rotation. So say I pull up, fully extend them, and I know I'm fully extended over here, but there's a proximity switch that senses that beam being all the way out. And the switch went bad. Okay, so you're all the way out, you know you're fully extended, come out of the cradle and you try to rotate that way, but it won't let you rotate that way because it thinks it's short jacked. You could use the override to let you to the side of the truck that it thinks it's short jacked on. But if you are short jacked, it will let you tip the truck right over also. So don't use the switch for the wrong reason. Okay, oh, go back to that. And also if that switch is hit and something happens, they can hook up a laptop and go back in and see when that switch was hit. So tell everybody that makes them think twice before they go to that switch. Any questions with the override?
Does it need to just be hit once, or do you have to hold it the whole process, the ladder's going to the side where it thinks it's short jacked?
For that, you got to hold it the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, you got a firm on ground. My pointer don't work on here. So you're firm on ground here. Let's say you know you're firm on ground over there. Now once you get the ladder out of the cradle and you get the ladder away from the cradle proxies, you can release that override because the truck doesn't care about them override or firm on grounds once you're out of the cradle. Because if you're off the side, non-working side becomes light. Okay, it doesn't stop operation on them side outriggers. So you could use it for that. And you've got a stabilizer enable. All that does is power this box up, right? And it's up for on, up for off. It'll stay on, power will stay on that box 180 seconds after your last function. It'll shut off when you take the ladder out of the cradle. But I would recommend once you're doing the setup, right, go ahead and shut it off, because when you go to put that box away and you start shoving that cord in there, your cord hits one of the switches and then your stabilizer takes off on you. All right, so you got power to your box. You got any kind of stick or pointer around maybe? No. No. Finger. All right. All right, your stabilizer not stowed. All right, all that's telling you is that you're not all the way up or all the way in with one of your outriggers. So before you go in the cab, make sure that red light is out, or you're going to get a Do not move truck stabilizer, not stowed. Next one down, stabilizer EPU, emergency power unit. Okay, this is not a override. It's a backup hydraulic system. So I lost my engine, lost my PTO, but I still have aerial master. Oh, thank you. That worked. All right, so stabilizer EPU, emergency power unit. It's a small battery operated pump, 30-minute on, 30-minute cool down. So you can run it for 30 minutes straight, but then you have to let it cool off for 30 minutes. It's a lot slower than a PTO. It's meant to put it away, not set it up. And when you use it, you always open a function first, then hold the switch. You always open something first so you don't deadhead the pump and heat it up faster. All right. Now you've got your stow. Now what your stow does is, say you're set up, and you hit that stow and you hold stow until the alarm shuts off. It brings all 6 stabilizers up. Also, you could use that, say you're on a hill and you hit your auto level and it's really starting to pick the truck up. Okay, now before the truck gets that high, I could stop with the auto level, take a look at my 2 levels, make sure I got my 6 firm on grounds. Okay, we don't have to pick it up any higher. We're already high enough. Or if you do get too high with it, hit that stow for about a second, right? It'll bring all 6 of them up, bring the truck back down, and if you still have your 6 firm on grounds, you're good to go. So you can use it for that. Okay, now when you do a setup, what do you?
John,
Yep.
point to the lights, what you're talking about, firm on ground.
Oh.
What do you,
The rear firm on ground, the front, and so these 6 would have to be on for your firm on grounds.
and they're green.
Yep. So you got your 6 greens on, your fully extended equals rotation, level assist. So when you go to do a setup, run it out until it stops, run it down until it stops. Okay, do that with both sides. Now you can do both sides at the same time. The truck will do it. Pierce just wants you to have eyes on it. So if you got a spotter, run them both out, run them down until they stop, and then hit your auto level. Okay, it's going to level it out. It'll automatically drop the front and rears and hold it until it's done. The alarm will shut off when it's done. When I was talking about doing a hard set, you're on a flat, you want to do a hard set, again, run them out until they stop, run them down until they stop. Take your fingers off the switches. So you take your fingers off of these 2, right? Go back into them about a second, picking the truck up a little bit, and then hit auto level. And it'll get that, more weight on the stabilizers. Now your tilt, to do your tilt, okay, you do your setup. So you'd have hold your level until it stops, and you can tilt front to back. Now all that's gonna do is tilt teeter on that center stabilizer. Now to do a side tilt, okay, you wanna hold it until it's done, and it'll actually bring this side up, bringing these stabilizers down, and hold it till it stops, so it'll bring you to 5 degrees. Now the ladder already off the side will go to -15, but if for some reason you had to get down to -20, that's how you would do it. Hold it until it stops, and then you can get to -20 off the side. And, okay, when you're done with that, hit your stow, raising everything up, okay? And if you want to go the other way now, reset it up and bring it the other way. Don't sit there and go back and forth with it like this, right? It's kind of hard on the equipment. All right, your stabilizers. Now just point this out on the back of this stabilizer here. On the other side, you'll see it's a slide that slides up and down. It's got a bolt on the top of it, right? So when the stabilizer's all the way up, that bolt will get sensed by a proximity switch for stowed. Okay, and the reason I'm bringing that up, especially this one in the back, like in Wisconsin, when they put salt and sand on the roads every other day, tires will kick that up, and sometimes it'll get stuck up in the stowed position. It'll let you bring the stabilizer down, but then you go to stow it, it won't pick up because it thinks it's already stowed. So you got to go there once in a while and give those a shake, make sure they're not getting stuck. And if you can see this bracket under here, okay, it's kind of at an angle. It kicks this straight. I call it a surfboard. It'll kick your pad straight. But when you bring it in, you want that pad within 5 degrees either way of the truck before you bring it in. There was an apartment that turned at 90. Now when you do bring it out, you can turn that pad anywhere you want. If you got something in the way, you know, it's still taking up the same space. You just turned it. But they turned that pad at 90 and ran it in, okay? And it went underneath that pad that's supposed to turn it and crushed everything underneath. So make sure you're within. Also, if you short jacket, I recommend you bring the stabilizer out at minimum a foot. Bring it down, get your firm on ground, get your other side all the way out. Now, if you were to run it straight down, right? Now that bracket that's on that angle, now you're gonna come up with that here. So if you can remember, if you drop it straight down, bring it halfway up, bring it out, bring it all the way up, bring it in. Okay, if you got a feeling that somebody's not gonna remember to do that, just tell them bring it out a foot, then you don't have to worry about that. And maintenance, you can see the grease zerks on the bottom of the feet. 10 hours of aerial operation, that gets up molly grease. Underneath the stabilizer beam, the whole underside, use the food grade super lube and just take a paintbrush and paint it on. Wipe the old stuff off. Turntable, your panel here. Now you got to open and close for your aerial waterway at the basket and your nozzle controls. And turntable overrides basket, nozzle controls and ladder controls. So remember, turntable overrides basket. Aerial manual control, I'll get into that in a minute when we go up backups and overrides. Emergency stop, push it in to set it, quarter turn to right to release it. Emergency hydraulic power. So if I lost my engine again, lost my PTO, still have aerial master, I use this switch. So if you're at your turntable, open a function, hold a switch. And when you're using these controls at your turntable, okay, along here with this switch, you still have your safeties because you're using electric controls. You're just using a different hydraulic source to put it away. Aerial speed, faster normal. Get next to a building, put it in normal. You can feather it a little bit easier. Now you got a manual basket level disabled. So in the basket, okay, you got to enable or disable manual basket leveling. So the reason that is there, if you were going to cut a hole in a roof and you wanted to run that basket down, get a better angle at it, you would have to bump that switch for a half second and release. That'll put you in the manual. Lower it to where you want it and it'll hold that position. But when you're done, you got to shut it off. So auto kicks back in. If you do not shut it off, you go to raise it, it's going to sit there and hold that. So you can shut that off from the basket or turntable. I don't know if you've played with that at all. And your lighting is going to be different. I forgot to look, all your lighting is 12 volt. Do you have a generator on it? All right, so you don't have to worry about turning on a generator, turn any of your lights on. You're all 12 volt. Your command zone. Okay, now if you're in a cab, it looks like a deck of cards. That's your menu. Go into your menu, bottom left, it'll say aerial screens. And you can pull up your aerial screens inside of the cab. So the first screen that comes up is a screen that shows your actual truck grade and slope setup. So you can see that before you get out of the cab, you know what angle you're at. And vice versa. You can pull the chassis screens up on the turntable. So you can watch your DEF level, your engine temp, if you're up on the turntable. Dead man's in the handle. Dead person are very offensive, I was told. So I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say there. So you got to squeeze in and release them, ease in, ease back out. Some people think, hey, you can just grab it and let it go. Okay, you still want to feather it. Ease in, ease back out. You can do multiple functions, whatever you're comfortable with. All right, now getting the ladder out of the cradle. This is how you want to get the ladder out of the cradle. You got raise and extend at the same time. It'll start to raise, it'll extend a little bit, raise a little more, extend a little more, get out to about 42, 44 feet. Okay, and it's a sweet spot. Then you'll feel that the speed kick in. So if you're watching your ladder sections, you get that lower mid, so you got first section's your base, then you got your lower mid. If you're watching that go out, the last section on your lower mid, when it gets just past that first section on the base, that's when your speed will kick in. Putting the ladder away, okay? Do the opposite. Lower and retract at the same time. Get yourself in about 3 degrees either side of the cradle. Okay, if you're within that on your command zone, right about here, a little triangle will come up. And if you touch that triangle on the screen, it'll say align for stowing. And if you have that screen on as you're doing it, it'll beep at you, it'll say retract aerial. It may give you a basket error. That means it's waiting for that basket to catch up. And if the basket error comes on, you have to go back to neutral with that controller and then go back into it. Then it'll bed. But just hold both of them from the turntable or basket. Right? And if you're outside of that, say 3 degrees, it'll come down, just give you a collision avoidance. You got to move it over manually. A couple other things I noticed, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's happened to me, is I just raised it straight out of the cradle, then I went to go put it straight back in, right? And it made me rotate it one way or the other half an inch, and then it would bed. So if that ever happens, do that. I don't know how much you got to run it yet, if you've seen any of that.
There's no auto park feature on it either, is there?
Nope, just got to hold them two.
You got a manual to put it back.
Yep. Okay, basket controls, got another E-stop, got a command zone. Controls are the same in the basket. Waterway valve shut off, speed, here's that manual basket leveling. You gotta enable it, run it up and down, and shut it off when you're done. Your lighting switch is gonna be different, and monitor controls. All right, your interlocks would be your firm on grounds, getting your ladder out of the cradle. And once your ladder's out of the cradle and you're away from that cradle prox, it kills power to your stabilizers. Body collision, it'll slow down when you get next to the body. And also with this, it's something you got to get used to is, say you got the ladder off to the side, right? And you're starting to raise, and all of a sudden it starts slowing down, slowing down, slowing down. You got to remember, you got to extend it out and get that rear of that ladder away from the body, and then it'll let you raise. Rotate, interlocks, short jacking. Now don't be afraid to short jack, that's what it's there for. This truck has about a 19-foot spread on it, pan to pan, fully extended. So as you're pulling up, you know you can't get both sides all the way out, and this is your working side. So take your truck and hug your non-working side, get this side out a foot, bring it down until it stops, working side all the way out, down until it stops, then you can do your auto level. It'll set up the same, you're just not all the way out with this side. Again, come out of the cradle, it'll give you about 3 degrees, it'll stop you. Come around the back, it'll stop you here. So you got full water, full weight over here, you just can't rotate to the side that's not all the way out. You can also use short jacking as a safety. You pull up, you're gonna be working over here. You got power lines on this side, just stop this 1.5 foot from full extension. You can't rotate by the power lines.
Can you override that, John, if you have to?
I could never say to do that, but yes, it would.
Okay, but the same switch, would you get
Yep.
override if you had to bring somebody around the short jack side for whatever reason?
It would do that, but I could never say to do that.
Gotcha.
Max elevation, say you're coming up all the way 76, right? It's going to slow you down before you get all the way up so it doesn't hammer you up top. All right, aerial operations, pre-driving, just everything stowed. Wheel chocks, any questions with wheel chocks? Normally front axle. Now with this truck, 3 numbers you got to remember. If you want to try to set this truck uphill, but uphill, 8 degrees. Downhill, 5 degrees. Now if you pull up downhill, parking brake neutral, you hit the aerial master and you're greater than 5, it'll start giving you a warning about level. But if you try to set it up downhill, okay, the sides and the rear will set up, but the fronts won't even come down. But if you had to, you could operate like that. It would let you out of the cradle, but it would only give you 180 off the back of the truck. It would not let you rotate towards the front of the truck. Me, myself, I kind of like to have all of them on the ground, but if you had to, you could. All right, never bridge over ditches, culverts, positioning uphill or downhill. So remember, 8 degrees uphill, 5 degrees downhill. And if you're on a side slope, the number is 3. So if you're greater than 3 or greater, this is how you have to set it up. You have to start with the low side first. So you bring it out, bring it down until it stops, go back into that switch and manually lift it up, get it close to 0. Then you can do your high side and do your normal setup. So if you pull up, try to do your high side first, it'll let you run it out, but it won't even come down. So you got to do the low side first. So 8, 5, and 3.
853.
Yep.
Gotcha.
All right, position and aerial. Your surface, I would like to be on pavement. And it's all up to your discretion. You know, if you pull up and you're only going to come up a little bit, maybe you'll get away with gravel or dirt. But if you're going to come up and fully extend it and got 1,000 pounds in it, okay, that's a lot of weight on these outriggers over here. So I definitely want to be on concrete, blacktop. Don't set up on railroad tracks. Whoops. Does that mean somebody's done it if they got it in here? All right, setting up your stabilizers. Now you got a 1,000-pound tip load and you got your different levels. And I'll get into that in a little bit. There's another screen that shows them. So setting the aerial up, you pull up, parking brake neutral, aerial master, aerial PTO, front wheel lock. Now as far as going in the water pump, you can go into before, during, after, it doesn't matter. Only thing you want to remember is try to engage your PTO at low idle. If you're flowing water and you got your RPMs up, right, supplying water, go ahead and put it in, it will go in. Just something you don't want to do to it every day. So if you pull up and you think you might need it, put everything in right away and you don't have to worry about it later. Everybody good there? Have any questions with going in the pump? Now does everybody still stop in the middle or just drop it straight down? Everybody stops? Yeah. Somebody told me, this a long time ago, but they told me that coming out of pump, right? Neutral, speedo back at 0. They told me once the truck gets broke in, that grinding noise will go away. It just got to get broke in a little bit. That's not true. I was joking on that. So. All right, you're short jacking. Any questions with short jacking? Okay. Now remember, if you short jack both sides, it'll let you out of the cradle, but you're not going anywhere. So if you had to load hose or something, you could do that. Stay within your load chart, electrical storms, safety belts. Don't hit nothing, basically. Now your levels on the back of your truck. Full capacity of your load chart. 0 to 5, you're in a green. So green, full capacity of your load chart. 5.1 to 8, you're in a yellow. 50% use of your load chart. And if you're in a red, you have to reset up. It won't let you out of the cradle. Your load chart, there's a copy of your load chart inside of the console hood at the turntable, and there's one on the basket wall inside the basket. So, and follow the one that's on the truck, not this one. So you got your 35-mile-per-hour winds, waterway dry, over here on the side. You got your base, lower mid, center mid, upper mid, and fly basket. So if I'm fully extended, this would be my turntable, right? This would be the end of my base, end of my lower mid, and so on. So at negative 15 to 9 degrees, I can have 1,000 pounds in the basket. Now, if I have 1,000 pounds in the basket at that lower elevation, the dashes mean 0. So let's say I only had 500 pounds in the basket. I could put that other 500 pounds anywhere else on the ladder. So at that lower elevation, you can have 1,000 pounds on the ladder, and it doesn't matter where it's at. As you go up in elevation, 10 to 19, I could have 1,000 in the basket and 250 at the end of the base. That's total. And so on as you go up in elevation. Now, how often would I have that much weight on a ladder? Probably never. Doing a rescue, keep everybody spread out on the ladder. That's fully extended 360 degrees around the truck. Now, flowing water, waterway charged. Doesn't matter, it's 100 GPM or 1,000, 2,000. You got 500 in a basket instead of 1,000 while flowing water. And the same as you go up in elevation. Now, as far as your ladder functions while flowing, all your ladder functions are fine except retract. Here says you can retract while flowing, but do it slowly. People forget about the slowly part sometimes. But you do have 2 reliefs in the aerial waterway. Okay, one at the basket. That relief will crack open at 165, fully open at 200. And there's one on the turntable. Oh, I'm sorry. Underneath the truck by your aerial inlet on the passenger side, if you get underneath there and look, there's another relief that'll crack open at 220, fully open at 250. Now there's just a spring, so once it goes below that pressure, it'll reset. All right. So 2 reliefs. And also you've got your aerial drain on the passenger side. I'll show you where it is when we get out there. So you get done flowing water, you shut your water supply off at the pump panel. First thing you want to do is walk around and open that drain up. Now normal operations, I would recommend you're going to have that monitor valve open. So it's just an open pipe. So if you forgot to open up that aerial drain, you go to retract it, it's just going to puke at the end of the monitor. And that's a habit you don't want to get into, is closing that valve all the time. Leave it open. You know, the reason you would close it, if you're going to use your, you could use your ladder as a standpipe. You've got the side valves. So that's pretty much, in an emergency, maybe you'd have to close it quick, but I couldn't see that happening very often. But you would have to close that valve to use your side discharges on your monitor. But normally I would leave that valve open.
all the time.
Yeah. Waterway charged. Oh, sorry, I already did that, didn't I? I'm losing it. Okay, this is also on that load chart. Anybody need a break? Doing all right? Smoke? Got a vape? No. Start. All right, nozzle positioning while flowing. 0 to 1500, you got unlimited nozzle positioning here, 45 degrees up. Okay. Get over 1500, then you got to watch your 45 degrees side to side. Now, if you are over 15 and past 45, it will not alarm at you. Computer has no idea what that monitor angle is at. So you just got to remember, we can't be spraying straight out the side. We're over 15. We got to keep it within that 45.
Let's hope we get 1,000.
All right. Now this is a load chart with a 1/4 inch ice buildup on it, so you can really tell the difference with the weight of the ice on it. There's not a copy of this on the truck, but it is in the aerial manual. And same here. All right, turntable operations. We'll get a chance to run it when we get out there. Can't remember if you got breathing air or not. Do have breathing air. Now on your regulator on the passenger side, right, you've got 2 gauges on that breathing air. You've got a high side and a low side. High side would be what's in your tank. Turn in your regulator. The one gauge on the left is your low side. That's what you're sending to the basket. Stowing the aerial. All right, everything's stowed. We'll do it when we get out there. And again, everything turned off, put away. Now your screens on your turntable and in your basket. Okay, and also you can pull them up in the cab. So if you hit your menu, aerial screens, you can pull up your aerial screens in the cab. So this one here shows the gallons per minute. This shows your load chart. Now this load chart, as you go up and down in elevation, it'll change to match your load chart we just went over. What it does not do, it does not have a load sense on it, so it has no idea how much weight you have on it. It just tells you how much you can have on it. Right. The rung alignment, they'll turn green when they're aligned, just makes it easier to climb. And you've got a ladder angle. Now you can hit page, you can either hit the screen or the button. And this screen just telling you no load sense device. This screen will give you your hydraulic fluid temperature, hydraulic fluid pressure, your height from the ground to the basket, ladder angle. Now this length is from the turntable to the tip, and this one is from the tip of the ladder back to the truck. So those two at 0 degrees would read the same, but as you go up in elevation, that top one is going to get smaller because the basket is getting closer to the truck. All right, your grade and slope setup. Again, this is a screen that's going to come up first inside of the cab. And this will show your stabilizers. So on the sides, if you're fully extended and planted, they'll be green. If you're short jack, they'll be yellow. And if they're red, that means they're light. So you came out of the cradle, you extend it out the side, non-working side became light, they'll show up as red. And that explains that right there. This will show you if you're short jack. If you're short jack, this whole side will be red. Now, if you go into your deck of cards, your menu, diagnostics, live data, okay, this screen will come up. It will show you aerial hours, aerial PTO hours, water, total water used. All right, for some reason, I don't know if you would have to know that or not, but to zero that out, this is how you have to zero it out. Go into your deck of cards again, go into aerial calibrations. The screen will come up, and all you have to do is hit reset, and I'll bring that number back to 0. Just a little warning, if you see it says water flow calibrations, don't play around with these arrows. Okay, that's how we calibrate the gallons per minute. So if somebody gets in there playing, pushing buttons, you got to do more than just touch an arrow, but you don't want to knock it out of calibration. And also, if you go into your menu and you find password, stay out of password. I just did a training in Madison County. They told me, no, where was that? Anyways, they told me that somebody was in there playing and they accidentally figured it out and they screwed it up somehow. Okay, we can't email you new password to reset it. You got to buy a new module. So don't play in password. If you find language, don't play in language.
That sounds very expensive.
Yep. So, and also, if you play in language, okay, you got to be able to read the screens to get back to it to switch it back. All right. So he's always a funny guy.
So the water flow to the total water used is going to be just measuring it from day 1 to day 80. It's not going to, when the truck turns off, it doesn't clear to 0 each time or anything like that. It's
Nope.
you have to go into that menu, you hit reset to go back to 0.
Yep. Now, like all the old ones, take power off and then it goes back to 0. But whoop. Also, if you see the lines on the side of the display, if you press on those on the aerial, you can run your monitors through your display. In the cab, you can run all your emergency lighting through your display.
Say that again, or,
If you're in the cab, you hit them 3 little lines.
okay.
Say your panels up top with your emergency lighting will come up down here and you can run your emergency lighting through your display. How much more do you want me to go in for as far as Wi-Fi, anything like that? Okay, more for maintenance. All right, your emergency aerial operations, overrides. So it talks about your emergency stop. Any questions with your emergency stop? Got to be reset from where it's set at. Global override, don't use it for the wrong reason. Right. You have an electrical failure, you go to that override, but it takes away all your safeties. EPU, emergency power unit. Okay, I have to put it away, not set it up. 30-minute on, 30-minute cool down, open a function first. Also, if you don't want to run if you're out going to practice with it, right? You don't want to run your EPU and the PTO at the same time. So if you want to turn on your aerial master, leave the PTO off, then you can, say, run a stabilizer with your EPU. So you've got one on the stabilizer control box. So I lost my engine, lost my PTO, still have aerial master, I go there. Got one on the turntable. Put the ladder away. Okay, this next one is your backup to your backup. So if I lost aerial master and aerial PTO, this drives the same battery operated pump, 30-minute on, 30-minute off, but this does not go through your aerial master, it's battery direct. and you have to hold it down for stabilizer and hold it up for aerial. So if you hold it up for aerial trying to run your outriggers, it's just going to sit there and deadhead. Nothing's going to happen. So for this scenario, you got to get the ladder put away. Okay. Now I was talking about, I'll skip ahead a little bit, this switch here. All right. So they want somebody at the turntable holding that switch. Okay. So what that does, this is called your diverter valve. But I cannot just sit there and hold that over to aerial to open up that valve to give me pressure to the gray handles. The gray handles, this is turntable up, so this is everything aerial, ladder. But I can't just do that to get pressure to that valve. I have to have somebody up top holding that aerial manual switch. That'll power up that valve, so I got fluid pressure to the gray handles. So you'd have to hold this switch up to aerial, somebody up top holding that red switch, and using these controls to put the ladder away. So make sure they're holding the switch, get what function you want open, then hold that switch up to aerial. And no safeties when you're using these. So you got to get spotters everywhere. All right, in that situation, get the stabilizers put away. By holding this down the stabilizer, that will run this one for you. So all you got to do is find the function you want, hold it open, and then hold that switch. Everybody clear there?
Those all marked, correct?
Yes. The door is labeled with everything on it.
There's a label on the door, and then on the left side of each of those switches is an embossment in the plastic.
All right, and green and blue. Blue is in and out, green is up and down. And there's no safety putting away your stabilizers. So if you grab in instead of up and the tires are off the ground, it'll drag it in. So make sure you got the one you want, get a spotter for the other side. All right, now let's say we lost aerial master but still have truck running, still have a PTO, so I have hydraulic pressure. So I don't have to touch this switch down here. So again, somebody up top has to hold that switch to run that valve and use these, put the ladder away. And then you would have to take this diverter, hold it over to aerial, hold it over to stabilizer, and then whatever function you need down below. And we'll do it when we get out there. I didn't think of anything else. Any questions in here? Oh, what I just remembered. Now if, say you got the ladder out of the cradle and you have aerial master, aerial PTO, you got that door open, it's going to give you alarm, manual override door open, but say you go raise up top, that gray handle is going to move. So that controller drives that valve. So that means these controls are live. So if somebody just, what are these for? Reaches in there and starts grabbing handles. You don't want them. This is another one of them things, don't take it the wrong way, but not everybody needs to be in that compartment. All right, this is what that sticker on the side of the door looks like. So your basket level, up, down, rotate, extend, retract. And here's that switch you got to hold. Still want somebody on the turntable, make sure they're watching that rear of that ladder. I would still probably get a couple more people if you're putting it away using your manuals. Maintenance and care I'll cover when we get out to the truck. So.